Sometimes you have to do that because the easy challenge is one you'll get lazy with. The big challenge gets you hungry.
Oh, how the tables turn.
That's a heavy topic, and we need to focus on that. If not for yourself, then do it for your children.
Black book is in black.
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 500,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I'd like to say you are blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you are watching Black Men Can Talk, a show where Black Canadian men come together, have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community. And I'm hanging out with one of our other co-hosts, Mr. Kofi Morris. How are you, Mr. Morris?
Peace, and blessings, family. I'm good. I'm well. I'm giving thanks. It's been a busy weekend and week, to be honest with you. But I'm thankful. I'm here with the people and looking forward to engaging and jumping into tonight's convo and just building off of this topic because there's so many things going on, and we've had a couple shows relative to this topic. But I want to delve in a little deeper to see how it actually applies to different aspects of us in our community.
Yeah, we've had conversations about this topic with other people speaking with the family, but we're going to be speaking amongst ourselves and with the family. And I've got something to add to the engagement that we're going to have on this evening and hopefully going forward. But before we go any further, give us a win you've had over the past week.
So a couple things, right? And I was just trying to finalize which one do I want to share. So I think one of the things I want to go with is specific to young people. For those that don't know, I've been doing work myself as well as one of our other co-hosts as well, Paul. I've been doing work with melanated youth in our community for quite some time. I'll switch from my Bluetooth here, and one of the things that you experience sometimes is sometimes you don't get to see some of the progress of this type of work in short spans of time. Sometimes you see them over spans of time. So this week I was building with a brother that for some time we've been doing some work together, and prior to, there's some challenges that he was working through. But this meeting that I had with him showed me how much the work that we've been doing has impacted his life because of the work that he's doing with young people himself. So for me, being able to have this meeting and just see the strategies and approaches that he's taking, and even the usage of technology, music, and what have you, shows me that the work that we've been doing is not only paying off, but it's paying forward. Right? Because his brother, the work that he basically some of the projects that he's dropping now, is just seeking some support for. It's shown me that the impact of the work that we do can span for generations, can go beyond us. So that's one of the wins for me, was just having that meeting and seeing how much the transformative journey we've been working through, maybe about for 5 years or so, been on, is now paying off in terms of its impact on both him, his mental health space that he's in, what he's building and creating, but also how it's impacting the young people he's actually working with. So the whole piece of passing on the baton, for those that don't know, sometimes the elders, they get frustrated because they're like, is the work we're doing being done, is it happening in vain? And I'm like, no, man, like there's some amazing things that are happening with young people. So that's my win for this week. How about yourself, Doc?
Well, Kofi Sadat has jumped in, so I want him to share hope thing as well with him and fam, and just share a win that he had over the past week.
Man, this is, I say win. It was one of those kind of things. The last 2 days were kind of like that way. But I want to highlight today, I actually had an opportunity to go to events in I would say Kofi's old hometown, which I call the whole of Durham. But it was an Oshawa. No, this is Kofi's cut. He cut his teeth on Durham.
Okay.
Right? So, yeah, it was out in Durham, Club Carib. You know, for those who may not know this, this is a Black-owned space that has been around for 60 years this year in Oshawa. So it's like a banquet hall. They host different programs. They do a lot of work around like Caribbean culture. So dance, like Caribbean dance, steel pan, um, instruments. So they were kind of celebrating the elimination of the Day of Racism today. So it was really good, a really good event. So I want to give it up to them. And knowing, you know, that we've had this in our community for over 60 years, I was like, wow. So my win is a community win. And then in addition, who was there was, of course, you know, the stalwart when it comes to Black inventions and highlighting that in the city was our brother Francis Jeffers. And so he had his Canadian multiculturalism museum exhibit up there, which is amazing. He was focusing more on Caribbean inventors today. But I want to give a big shout out to him because today's his birthday.
Birthday, yes.
Right. He turned 70 years old or 70 years young.
Wow.
70 years young, right? His
Yes.
mind is sharp. His, you know, physical is always, you know, this brother is always dancing. And, you know, so really, I think he, you know, we got to give the flowers, you know, where flowers are needed. Heck, he needs a whole garden as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, you know, felt good to be in that space and reasoning with some elders, you know, I mean, that just really were like living life, you know, they were so vibrant, you know, and I was like, yeah, we got to be that way in this generation when we get there. But yeah, shout out to Club Carib, shout out to the folks out in Durham, and just, you know, everybody holding that down. So that was my win, which came today. So I'm giving thanks for that.
It's wonderful. You talk about Durham and Kofi. That's a stomping ground for his. But it's funny. I was speaking with a restaurant owner in the last month or so, and he has 2 locations. Both of them, well, one's in Scarborough in the GTA. Another one's just in Markham for people in the GTA at Kennedy, just north of Steeles. So we were chatting for a bit, say, so you're thinking about expanding? He goes, yeah, you know what? The landlord here is da-da-da-da. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
And I said to him, you know, you should probably look at going to Durham region. He goes, why? He says, Durham region, and I may be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure about this, has the highest concentration of Black African Canadian population of all of Canada.
And growing.
And when he saw that, it's like he just went, what? He said, what? And I don't know how many people, even in the Greater Toronto area, who are Black, Caribbean, African background or from, know that.
Yeah, and no, it's true. It's true. And not just, I mean, Kofi can speak to this because Kofi, I said,
yes,
Kofi came up in this, so he can tell you about the growth and the change. But when we say Durham, for those who are familiar, we're not just talking about Ajax, Pickering, Whitby, Oshawa. We're talking way even east of that.
Bowmanville.
Population is like, yeah, it is
the people going up the yeah, it's going east.
You know, but it's really even further you go east, the Black population is really growing out there. And so, yeah, you know, there's a lot of opportunities.
Kofi, what do you want to talk about your stomping ground before we go to break?
It's interesting because, you know, I always say, like, a lot of the young people growing up now, some of the experiences that they're having, we used to hear older folks when we were growing up talk about, oh, you guys don't know how much work we put in so that you guys can A, B, C, and D. It's how real it is out in Durham, Ajax, Pickering, those areas. Last year, we were speaking about this today on the call that I was on. They celebrated the sorry, what's the name of the they basically created a Black Wellness Week. That was the first part, but it was essentially it became registered in the local area in Ajax specifically, right? Um, a Black Wellness Day, and this is something that Black Wellness Day, like this would have been unheard of, you know, in the early 2000s and stuff like that, right? This would have been unheard of, you know, mid 2000s, because it wasn't something that could have even been embraced, you know, at that time, right? Whether it's community centers, whether it was, you know, basketball courts, a lot of the experiences that we had in those areas was riddled with racism, right? Was riddled with like blatant racism, right? When now a lot of young people, when you go into certain spaces, there's plaques and there's, you know, there, like I say, there's Black Wellness Days. There's things that you can go to and experience, you know, all aspects of our culture with a whole bunch of Black vendors selling products, which a lot of the work that we did, one of the organizations that was called It Takes a Village. Big up Sister Ya, that, you know,
Big up.
you know, created this initiative that brought us into it. And we would bring people from the West and into Ajax, Pickering, and all these areas to come to events. It was something that we were constantly having to knock on doors, you know, just to be heard, to get space. When now it's like widespread. You hear about events happening all the time, and there's a whole heap of our people that are coming out. So it's like a lot of work has been done that laid the foundation. So now when I go and I see these, you know, experiences, it's just like you're looking back at a huge shift that has taken place in the last, you know, 20 years plus. For people that were knocking on those doors, putting in the work, sending the emails to say, we're here, we want to be represented, we want to have space, where now that's become a staple now.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So it's a blessing. It's amazing to see.
Excellent.
Dr. Vibe, did you share your win before we go to?
Yeah, I'm doing real quick. There are so many, but yesterday seeing Paul and his partner at an event in Mississauga, they had a roundabout way of getting there, but they got there. But it was so good. I have so much respect for Paul's partner. So I don't see her a lot, but when I do see her, it brings joy to me, and seeing them working together, a Black couple working together. And I'm going to say this, I consider them a power couple. It's not by status, but by what they do together. That's what I mean by a Black power couple. They don't look for the stars and status. They walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to relationship. They're not perfect, and they'll tell you they're not perfect, but they work together, and they've been doing it for years. So that brought joy. Also being at the event a little bit, and I was asked to share different tables, and just being humbled that what I was sharing was actually being written down.
Oh, yes.
That was very humbling. And I went to another table, and I was there for an hour. And then all these people said, can I get your contact information? I said, sure. Now, here's the interesting thing. Everyone that gave me their contact information, I've already reached out to them. I haven't heard from anyone back. So I just leave that be. But I said I did what I was supposed to do. And one of the gentlemen that was at the table, we've known each other for a little bit, says, Dr. Vibe's a real deal, this and that. And he said, I need to get some mentorship from you. I said, sure. Just reach out. So really good weekend to see a full room of melanated people wanting to be better. Not only themselves, but better their business and better to help the massive. As Elder March would say, the massive. So I will leave it at that. We're going to go to break. And when we come back from break, we're going to do quick housework. I want to do homework, but these days I feel like I'm doing homework still. Some quick housekeeping, and we'll be right back. So here we go.
Watch Black Canada Talking live on Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern, where Dr. Vibe and Cesar Diva Musa give their takes and POVs on news stories from a Black Canadian perspective.
Check out Black Men Can Talk live on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern, where Dr. Vibe, Kofi Sadat, and Kofi Morris, where Black Canadian men come together to have real, unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community.
that's where you're at. Black Men Can Talk. So let's do it quick. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Hit notification button. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Substack. To advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm a part of, email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, make sure you check out the African Diaspora Narrative Conference, I believe it's called. It's happening Aqua Supper Club, Saturday, July 25th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. If you want to know about all things about controlling the narrative as a melanated person, I would suggest you come to that. Actually, the main person showing up is a gentleman named Philip Scott, who I had a chance to have a conversation with this week. Over 8 years, he's built a media empire. He has on his YouTube platform, he has a number of different shows on it. He averages 19.7 million viewers a month. So if you're interested in black media and see about someone who a lot of us have not heard of before, he's done it bootstrap to get it going right now. All right. So, so here we go. Happy Sunday to you as a comment. And then there's another person saying, most black people are doing better regardless of the lies they told on us. Interesting comment. All right. So before we get into our main comment tonight, I wanted to show a little bit of a video trailer to prepare us for our conversation tonight. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds of information. Here we go.
How is AI impacting Black men's jobs, safety, and daily life? Let's get right into it. Whether you've logged into an AI app or not, AI is already making decisions around you about your work, your money, and even your freedom. First, jobs. Black men are heavily represented in the kinds of roles companies are rushing to automate: customer service, office support, warehouse and production, food and retail. That means when AI shows up as a chatbot, a self-checkout, or productivity software, our jobs are often the first on the chopping block. But there's another side. Brothers are also using AI to write stronger resumes, prep for interviews, learn new skills online, and build side hustles from content creation to consulting to coding, so AI can be a threat to your current paycheck and a tool to create your next one at the same time. Second, safety. For years, facial recognition and predictive policing systems have struggled most with darker-skinned faces. The tech misidentifies Black men at higher rates, and when police or private security trust that match, innocent people get stopped, questioned, or even arrested. So you can be walking down the street, minding your business, and an algorithm you've never seen has already decided you look like a suspect. AI, plugged into an already biased justice system, can turn bad data into real-world danger for Black men. Third, daily life. AI now sits in hiring systems, loan approvals, health apps, social media feeds. If those systems are trained on a world that has always undervalued Black men, they can quietly repeat the same discrimination, deciding whose job application gets seen, whose content gets promoted, whose pain is believed. But we are not powerless in this. We can learn how these tools work, use them to amplify our voices in businesses, and demand rules that protect our rights in hiring, housing, policing, and beyond. So here's the real question. In this age of AI, will Black men be invisible data points that systems act on, or informed creators, organizers, and owners who decide how this technology shapes our jobs, our safety, and our daily lives? This conversation isn't optional anymore. It's here. It's now. And we need Black men in the room asking questions, learning the tools, and shaping what comes next.
All right. So tonight we're going to have a conversation about how is AI impacting Black men's jobs, safety, and daily life on Black Men Can Talk, and we'll share our own perspectives. We'd love people to comment in real time on this conversation topic because, yeah, it's hitting us. It's here. It's not going anywhere. It is here. So, gentlemen, who wants to kick it off?
I'll get my younger brother Kofi to start, if that's okay.
For sure. For sure. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So again, there's so many aspects. I'm glad, Dr. Vibe created this video, which I'm guessing he may have used some AI.
I did.
You know, you think of simple, basic things all the way up to generating video for things like this, right? Professional presentations, things that you're doing at work, things that you're doing to pursue work. I've heard a lot of talk about it right now, issues of unemployment that are happening in the community, but widespread across Canada. I've heard of hundreds of jobs being lost. A lot of the, just one, for example, uh, through food chains, a lot of restaurants are going to be closing down across Canada, right? And going all the way into the US as well, vice versa, whereby some people are going to be scrambling, right, relative to employment. So some of the basic things that can be done, as was mentioned in the video, stem from something as simple as resume upkeep and updating to having various resumes in various fields because you have different skills. Why go through the process of having to create all these things from scratch when you can actually utilize whether a bot or you can utilize artificial intelligence programs and platforms to rewrite those resumes, spit them out, and then maybe even edit or whatever the case may be, right? So there's some of the basic simple things. But it's interesting that you said something, Dr. Vibe, just now. You said you attended an event this weekend, good connections, met all these people, and sent out an email or however you sent that information out, didn't hear anything back. Well, look at the joke. There are tools on your WhatsApp, there are tools on your email, there are tools on various platforms that you use right now that can, one, send an automated generated message or email back to your community, your clients, your target audience to confirm that you've received an email or whatever the case, or even a message or text, but also shoot information back that shows that you're engaging. But in addition to that, you can also have something automated that was automated prior to the event that you went to, right? That would reach out, as long as you have your email list set up or whatever on your phone, that will actually send information out. Let's say you went to a session on Saturday, Sunday morning, information is being sent out automatically that you created Thursday, you created Friday, right? So one of the challenges people have sometimes with going to networking events is following up. So what you're saying, Dr. Violet, like, we know it's nothing new, but if that's a challenge and that's an administrative piece that you can now take off of your list of things because you previously set it up on AI, you don't have to worry about the follow-up. So these people that you emailed and contacted, they may have sent you back something and you would have been like, oh, I heard from a couple people. You don't know if that was a bot or if that was something that they set up previously to be able to reach out back to you. But no, balls are being dropped because in some cases we're not utilizing the technology to make things easier for us, right? So I think that's one of the pieces we have to acknowledge.
Oh, if I can interrupt, now I agree with you to a certain, but I did it a little bit differently. I sent them video messages.
There you go.
So this is the thing, I like to be personal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when I meet someone the first time and we agree to continue the conversation, I will send a video message. Now, yes. And the nice thing is, and I'm not worried if they answer or not, because I realize that the only person I can control the best of times is myself.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the technology there that if and when they open it, I will get notified.
That too. Which
right?
is also AI.
Using my technology to my advantage, I did what I was supposed to if and when they, and the funny thing is, the group of people I sent to at the table, I told them I have this, and I told them so I'm waiting to see when the answer. But I agree with you, having systems is really going to help you. We have a comment here, it's forcing Black men to gain skills and grow with the times. No more handouts, put the boots to the ground and hands on the hammer. Kofi Sadat, follow up with that.
That's a little bit, well, respecting everybody's comments, right? I'm not sure what the person means about handouts, but I'll let them hold on to that. I think the other aspect around growth is very interesting when it comes to AI, right? And so, as we were able to go to the conference, one of the main speakers, and I hope to get him on here, but one of the keynote speakers is somebody who actually works in the industry. He works in the software industry. And so he is definitely, in a job or an industry where AI is front and center, and definitely impacting him and the folks that he works with. Because again, this is technology, right? So a lot of it sometimes is, task oriented, it's coded, kind of stuff. So the interesting piece, I'd say, and maybe I'm on the other side of this, right? And I'll always start with this. I tell people, though we're walking towards AI, I don't think we've actually mastered our original AI, which is ancestral intelligence, right?
Oh, come now.
So we're
Lay it
moving
down
on
now.
to the
Lay it
next
down.
thing, and we haven't mastered the thing that's before us. So maybe it's a tangent, but when we learn to build pyramids like our ancestors did without the quote unquote artificial intelligence, then there's a place we have to start. But that being said, I think that I definitely agree. There is a good side when it comes to, things that are very much like, task oriented. It would take a lot of time to, like Kofi said, do this resume, that resume, whatever. But my concern really is around, the impact of AI on creativity, right? And thinking, especially thinking outside of the box. Because often AI gives you the box, right? For you to think within. So the three of us could Google the same thing right now, and we probably would have, hey, how can I be a podcaster on Black Men Can Talk show? Da, da, da. We'd have all the same template. But, yes, three of us are Black men here, but we all have our unique differences, talents, creativity, which creates the flavor of the soup. You know what I'm saying? So I think the most interesting piece that I'm concerned with AI is that when I know even what the keynote speaker 10 years ago and other folks 10 years ago talked about, the most immediate and greatest impact with AI would be a lot of jobs that are very menial. So factory jobs or stuff like that, where it's just a simple task you're doing over and over and over. But as we've seen, the greatest impact so far on AI has been on the creatives, right? Has been the folks that are doing, the graphic design work, the artist work, right? In many realms. And if you look at it in a lot of those realms, that's us, right? In a lot of those creative realms, you will find us, right? So I think the for me, the danger is, us relying on an artificial intelligence or something outside of us and forgetting about our own creativity, and also forgetting about the creativity of our ancestors, right? And I said the ancestral intelligence, because so many things that we have not yet mastered, got into, yet we're moving away. And it's not to say we shouldn't, quote unquote, grow, but growth can happen in many ways, right? You can look back, like Sankofa, look back, take it and move it forward. So that's what I would say initially about this piece.
Excellent.
So I want
Excellent.
to put something to Kofi, because I know we're here, but if I can put a question to Kofi.
Sure.
I know you work in the wellness field, and a lot of that I would assume is very human centered, right? Because you're taking care of another human being. How has AI impacted that industry?
A good question, in a lot of ways that we may not even think
Mhm.
some of these things apply. And going back, there's a business side of things, and then there's like the day-to-day,
Mhm.
kind of human connection and
Right.
that kind of thing. The ability to be able to engage and connect beyond these forms of technology, right? Because you're just referencing this piece around ancestral technology, and we can also even say African intelligence.
Mhm.
All of those things predated what we're currently dealing with, but also the foundation for the current state of AI has been taken from those spaces and those places, right? But on a ground level, relative to health and wellness piece, there's some things that we do at times that, from a business perspective, that are done differently now that we have access to technology. And when it comes to connecting with groups of people with the work that I'm doing, as opposed to just working on one-on-one at times, we're able to utilize different aspects of technology to get information out to groups of people. So we have all these like various online communities,
Right.
and we find that in those online communities, there's so much things happening all at once. So I would say almost every weekend or other weekend, there's some kind of health summit, wellness summit, expo, all of these things that are happening. Now they happen online as opposed to, just primarily in person.
Right.
In order to even find out and stay up to date with some of those things, we're utilizing online technology to get in people's emails, to get in people's texts, and like Dr. Vibe said, you click on a link, it opens up to a video and somebody's introducing themselves to you that maybe you've never heard of, never met before, but they're a specialist in the particular industry of health and wellness, opening the door to something that maybe you haven't experienced or haven't experienced to a certain degree before. So we're utilizing it to both reach our audiences, engage with our audience, but also keep them up to date with things that are taking place in the industry.
Right.
If you find now, if you go on your Instagram or even Facebook, you'll see a lot of AI generated videos of healers, like people who are working with herbs, for example, and they're telling you a basic herb, and it looks like I've seen a woman and a man with this, talking about particular type of herbs that you can use to cleanse your body and detox, and it looks like an old elder that you could have grown up with, your aunt, your uncle telling you about a bush that you could have drank. Well, now it's an AI, artificial intelligence generated person that's talking and explaining the information. Now, as you said, some people might be like, yo, like that, they don't like that, right? They'd rather hear from their real grandmother, whatever the case may be. But what about the people who don't have that? What about the people who the grandfather has passed? As they say, when an elder has died, it's like a library has been burnt. All this information has been lost. Well, some creatives now are utilizing that information, putting it in information that can be accessed through AI. And now somebody's teaching you about the herbs, teaching you about energy work, teaching you about whatever the case, right? But it's a real person behind that's generated that information, that's utilizing AI to support something critical on the ground, which has to do with your ability to cleanse your body, your ability to, get motivated to move your body, to get consistent on a particular area. So from a business perspective, that's some of the ways that it's being used to reach audiences,
right?
To get mass people, information that can be used on a day-to-day basis, and also to expand their community now online, utilizing whether it be bot or AI generated, people, so to speak, right? Once again, to be able to disseminate information, because like Dr. Vibe said, people want to see what would it look, what would at least look like someone talking to you, as opposed to just information on a screen.
Right.
So that's how some of those things are being used. And for, like I said, from business to very practical.
Right.
And the other thing, one thing I'll add is, being able to connect with people across the world.
Right.
Utilizing, these forms of technology in similar fields, it's extremely expanding our networking potential,
right,
relative to other healers that are doing similar work.
Right.
And then now we're running events together online. So there's some people who I met pre-COVID that I'm still doing work with, that I've probably met them physically twice or once, right? But now 6 years later or whatever, we're still doing online summits. We're still doing work together online because of the opportunity that has come up relative to some of these platforms.
Nice. Got some comments here. It's affecting the movie, film industry, factory pickers, low-level services, desk jobs. And then the other end, it's not affecting the construction industry or software development.
I said they're coming after everybody else first, right? So, Yeah.
You know, so it's really interesting in regards to the impact it's having. So what I'm gonna do also, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna change something up here. We're gonna have a poll.
Okay. I
So
like.
we've got a poll right here, and for people who are watching live. So which best describes how AI is affecting your work right now? 1, already replacing parts of my job. 2, helping me work faster or smarter. 3, it hasn't touched my job yet. So if you are watching live, press in 1, 2, or 3, and we'd like to know how it's impacting you.
Right. That's
So I'll piggyback on what Kofi Morris has said. I've been a certified coach for since 2015.
Mhm.
And I'm hearing more and more people looking for the AI coach.
Yep.
And I hear what people are saying, but there's still some things the human touch, just in my lens, is more effective.
Right.
You know, so I'll piggyback what Kofi said in regards to the wellness industry. Like I've been a certified coach, invested money to get that stuff since 2015. And I'm also training people now to become certified. And they're saying, oh, well, I'm just going to refer to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my friend. And I go, okay, no problem. But remember, it's very generic.
Yeah.
And more companies now are, when you do things like that, if you're putting presentations, they have ways to tell if it's AI generated or not.
Yeah. You know, I want to add to it. I mean, what Kofi was saying, I think he made a lot of valid points, you know, especially on the business side of things and the ability to connect with folks around the world. And I love all that. And I think there's some practical sides to that. However, it just makes me wonder. And I think I always come back to this piece around, you know, not just for Black creatives, but for Black people, you know, the whole question around authenticity and ownership. So our Bushmen and our Bushwomen, right? Our grandmothers and our grandpas who are out there, you know, going to the bush and finding the herb and doing the research and, you know, experimenting and, hey, this works good, that doesn't work. So we come to that place. My concern with the AI aspect of that and that generated elder that's on there and telling you to do X, Y, Z. At the end of the day, you know, I always, you know, because they don't really change their ways. Their biggest thing is they like to have ownership and control things. So it may come to the point where, you know, we have Kofi who does, you know, healing, and then we have this AI company that's behind this, and they're like, hey, you know, thanks Kofi for telling us this thing. We now own it. Right? We've always seen that, whether it's in our modes of music or invention or, you know, our healing. You know, and sometimes I wonder, like, I mean, I put it straight up to people. Would you rather a robot give you a massage or a human? Right? Because sometimes things are very intuitive. I can come to Kofi and say, you know, Kofi, my shoulder, I'm just giving Kofi's example. Kofi, my shoulder's hurting me. Right? Or whatever else is hurting me. But Kofi, with the level of expertise, is not just going to massage my shoulder, but he's going to tell you know what? There's an imbalance here, brother. It's really another part that's making your shoulder hurt. And that's intuition, right? And that's touch.
Yeah.
Right? So I think, again, in these fields, right, if you're totally moving away from human-centered, I get the business aspect, but totally moving away from human-centered, you know, these are some of the things that we have to be mindful. And I just want to say one more thing. The person that was delivering the keynote speaker who works in tech was saying intentionally with his children, he is now getting them to do hands-on pieces, woodwork, wood shopping, learning to knock out a dent in, you know, your car door. This is somebody again who's in it, and he's saying, because, you know, if you lean too much into this thing, you lose your ability to even, you know, learn how to work with your own hands. Right? So, you know, like I said, I use AI. And I'll tell people, like, I'm doing workshops and so on. So I use it for framework in terms of, like, my example. I tell people, it's like, hey, sometimes I deliver a workshop that was made to be delivered in 3 hours, but the client says, hey, we just have an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, instead of spending 15 minutes on the intro, now I'll do 5 because AI has put the timing down. So I think it's great. Right. I have to do all that thinking all the time. So I think that's great in the work that I do. And the work that I do is human-centered work. I do social work with agencies, as well as working with Black youth, those kind. But I think those are the balance of things that we have to look at is, as Black men, I love your video. There's lots of opportunity for us in this space, but I would actually push, like anything else, we become content creators of AI rather than consumers alone of AI.
Yes.
Right? Because that's the blind spot right now. As you mentioned in the video, technology security, they don't know how to recognize, or they, might say a Black face is threatening or so and so, but we need to be the content creators and control what we need to control. Otherwise, we're going to be going down a slippery slope where, wherever they want to push us to, that's where we're going to end up. And that's not always a good place.
Is it also another occasion where we're consumers, not controllers?
That's it. We've been seeing it.
Absolutely.
We've been seeing it. Right?
That's been a narrative, right, for some time now, all the way going back, right, to not trademarking things and things of that nature, right, for a lot of our folks, 40s and 50s and all this stuff, and even before that, the 20s, that were generating or creating all these amazing inventions that now, we usually find out or talk about them during Black History Month, right? We talk about Black inventors and things that we've created, forgetting that a lot of those folks who created those things, because of lack of access to information and or power, the ability to navigate that information, trademarks and things were written. People of European descent now became the face of the product that we use each and every day, because of the same piece we're talking about right now. It's not being able to govern our own information and how we disseminate it, how we control it, and that type of thing, which is interesting because you know what, a big part of the background of some of our conversation around this topic, and it's controversial in many different ways because there's two sides to it always, and this is how our ancestors taught us as well, right? You can utilize money, for example, as a tool for your destruction, or you can use it as a tool to uplift things that you're doing. Community, you can buy land with the same money that you can use to farm, products that may not be beneficial to a community, right? You can use the same money. So these are tools that we're supposed to be utilizing that in a lot of cases were actually handed down to us from our ancestors, right? We couldn't have what we're working with right now without their work, right? We couldn't have it. There's ancient systems that were used and developed that are based upon ancient technology, but you use them on a regular day-to-day basis, right? The practice of Ifa, and what we would know as Yoruba culture from a spiritual perspective, is based upon the whole concept of zeros and ones, right? So this is like ancient technology that's actually being used on a day-to-day basis to help people heal, help people understand circumstances in their life. You're going to a diviner or somebody who has the ability to tap into the spiritual realm to get answers to questions. That's based upon an ancient system, which is our ancient technology. So how we claim and maintain that, you're absolutely right, Paul, is that at the end of the day, if someone wants to take some of these things and now try to duplicate them, I've seen many errors. I've seen many errors when I search information to see, let me see what AI would say about this particular thing that I know that I've read in a book by one of our ancestors or one of our historians. Some of the information is not correct. So if you completely rely on that, thinking that, okay, even as a young person, I'm going to make this, this assignment. I'm going to hand in this assignment about this aspect from our history, and I'm going to use aspects of AI. that may not be correct. I'm now teaching my class something that may not be actually accurate, right? So being able to look at both sides of it, and like
Yeah.
you said, not be just the consumers, but be the producers of it. We have to be ahead of the curve relative to it. And I
Yeah.
think as Black men, sometimes we're relative to technology. Sometimes we're coming late to the game for various reasons, right? If you didn't get into tech early, if you weren't really into some of those things, but maybe you were more into something else, which can be hands-on, right? Whether that's trade-based or whether that's sports or whatever the case may be, you may feel like, bro, how do I get into this now? But we have some amazing people like Hezi that we've had on the show before. We have certain people in our community that can help to open up the door to show you how you can utilize these things. And again, you control your own narrative.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's one of the things I learned yesterday in the workshop, the ACBN workshop on marketing. So there was a sister by the name of Chris Beth, and she was talking about, you know, when you Google something nowadays, and you'll recognize it, the first thing that comes up is the AI generated version. So I can Google Dr. Vibe, Kofi, you know what I mean? And it's the AI that comes up first, right? Not even your information, right? And then it's, as you said, Kofi, it is not always accurate, but it's the first thing that comes to the top. And people may not go beyond that. So it's interesting. Yeah.
You know, you're reading my alleged mind. I'm going to put a call to action for everyone that's watching this live or on the replay. Google your name. Google, if you have a business, also Google your business.
That's exactly what you said to do. And yeah, it's
right. Now, one of my digital mentors, a wonderful melanated man, grew up in Jamaica, lives in Nashville, Tennessee. I went on, he does basically a Q&A every 2 weeks. He pulled me on and was talking about Google your name. He says, "Oh, Dr. Vibe, let's Google your name." So we did it in real time, live. And almost everything there represented me rightly. But the fourth entry was the Dr. Vibe show on IMDb, which is the Internet Movie Database. I'm going, I've never submitted anything to the Internet Movie Database.
Maybe it was suggesting to you.
Okay.
I know.
but here's the thing. So he clicked on it. The description they had of my show was totally wrong.
That's what I'm
he
saying.
He said, Dr. Vibe, contact them and have them change that or take it off. Because if it's like the fourth or fifth one there, people are going to click on that because IMDb is, a lot of people click on the Internet Movie Database and they say, this is like totally off. I want your correct representation, which leads on to me saying too, that remember, we don't control what's being said about us unless we take control about what's being said about us, especially in these times of AI. Yeah. So I just wanted to land that there.
For sure.
And also, as we, before we end again, we have a poll that's up there. Which best describes how AI is affecting your work right now? 1, auto replacing parts of my job. 2, helping me work faster or smarter, or it hasn't touched my job yet. Someone said, people have voted, say it hasn't taught your job. And notice I put the word yet.
Yet. Yeah. This is obviously, as we talk about, this is a very deep topic. And one of the intentions I had, I was sharing with the brothers here, that I spoke to some young artists and they were talking about what that impact looks like. So I'm hoping within the next, week or so, we can get them on. Because it's important to hear, especially from the young people.
Yes.
Right. What, and you'd be surprised at some of the things that you hear from them.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm almost expecting we get a total different lens.
Yeah.
Because they grew up with it.
Yeah. But even that, you might even be surprised with that. Right. It's like you'll be surprised at their well, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I wouldn't say total, but I'm seeing more research, people beginning to push back on this AI generated stuff.
Yeah.
More and more people are getting tired of it already. The term AI slop as people is out there. Kofi Morris, what you say?
So years ago, an elder exposed us to this thing called the Akashic Records. And we're like, it's the Akashic Records. It's like, deep. This is some deep information. Akashic Records is, a universal filing system, right? And it's said to hold every single thing that's essentially ever been done, documented, thought, felt, right, on this planet, right? And you're thinking to yourself, like, that sounds like something related to something we were just talking about, like a Google. Isn't that something like a Google or something like that? When you think of like all this information being documented, you can search for this conversation we're having right now, maybe in 5 minutes or whenever, when we complete this call, you can search for this and find it. So we know what happened, right? But that actual concept is ancestral. That actual concept is something that, again, our great ancestors actually put in a form that you can understand it, in layman's terms, to understand it as being the Akashic Records. So you could say that something similar to something of today, which is like a Google, but this has been done before. This predated us, right? And having those understandings is important. Now, in a deeper sense, knowing that some of these things came before us and that they came from somewhere prior to us, then we know that in some ways, we talk about this thing called the genetic memory bank. These things are in our blood, right? They're actually in us. So when you now go and you create something, Paul is a dancer. Paul's a man that will just be on a dance floor and just boom, do a dance, create a dance, wherever. Where does that come from, right? In some cases, that came from even before him. That's in his blood, So he's tapping into that when he's on a dance floor. You got, people that are, playing sports, soccer, football, basketball, all of these wonderful sports that we've mastered in a sense as melanated people. That doesn't just come from nowhere, right? Some of that is your great ancestor was involved in some form of whether it's martial arts or sports or whatever the case may be, that's being passed down through generations. So we have to remember that we're tapping into something that existed before us. And the thing that we've been able to do and maintain, as we talked about the healer earlier, going to the bush and picking a particular herb to know that that's good for your stomach ache or that's good for your headache or whatever, right? This is ancient technology. We just don't look at it as such because it's not on a screen. That is our ancient technology that we're losing because I had a conversation with somebody the other day that was like, close to me, was like, listen, it's like, when you get sick, I realize you don't use these things that we might use. Like they might say to me, you're not feeling well, take a Tylenol, take a this, take a that, or whatever, right? And I'm saying to them, like, that has not been one, my teaching, two, my actual physical experience, because that I know I can boil up a ginger and a garlic. I know I can rub myself down with such and such. I know, with aches and pains, I've learned things online that I could utilize, that I could take some cabbage and wrap it around this part of my body that's feeling pain. And in a couple hours, it can take and suck out the inflammation from that part of my body. This is our ancient technology. So I'd rather do that than use a pill that has the impact of maybe impacting aspects of my digestive system, whatever the case may be, right? And not getting to the point where I rely on that, as a go-to. And like I'm not saying you should never ever utilize these allopathic approaches, right? Because at times you have to. At times you're in a situation. If you have surgery, if you're going through whatever, you might utilize some of these things for a short period of time. But to know that if you want to really get deep and actually heal certain things, Mother Nature, as I would say this, Mother Nature has the cure for every ailment. So you have an ability to tap into something that's ancient, but it's growing right in your backyard. Some of these things are growing right on your street that you can take and boil and deal with female reproductive issues.
I want to big up the movie Sinners, because as Kofi was talking about, my favorite scene, when he plays the music and then he taps, everybody taps into their ancestors. You see them dancing and doing the different, and they just brought it from then all the way up till now. And I totally agree with you, Kofi. A lot of times, like we think, we're just here today and there's no impact from yesterday and even beyond the future, right? But yeah, that we're really usually spanning different dimensions in some of our learnings. And they even talked about epigenetics, things that
yes,
trauma that you're bringing forward,
Mm-hmm.
right? That you're not even aware of, right? That it's so far from you that but it's been proven that there's connections to those pieces as well. So
And that ties into the aspects around the common day-to-day healing of traumas and wounds. In order for us to address these things and to change our future, which also specifically ties into our mental health. Malidoma Some, for those that are not familiar, taps into a lot of this in his books. He has a book called Healing Wisdom of Africa. He has a book called Of Water and Spirit. And his late wife, Sabunfu Some, has a book as well called The Spirit of Intimacy. So these books are amazing sources of information to draw for what I'm about to speak about, which is the connection between mental health and spirituality, and seeing how these things interconnect. And the fact that some of the ailments we're facing today are intergenerational. We have the capacity now to be able to not only utilize tools for ourselves to navigate these spaces, but for also younger children and families. So we have children that are coming up with like brilliant minds, brilliant information. And when we acknowledge that our ancestors are speaking and some of these children are our ancestors coming back, we have the ability to see that this young person is a healer. Put them around other people that are dealing with herbs. This person's a musical healer. Give them instruments when they're young, right? So that they can utilize, so they can master it as they get older. That's the next Bob Marley. That's the next Michael Jackson. That's the next fill in the blank, Miles Davis. Those energies are still present with us today, and some of them are coming through our young people.
beautiful, beautiful.
Well, I think we have a wrap. I think we have just scratched the surface on this conversation. I think it's going to be an ongoing conversation because AI ain't going away.
Nope.
And it's going to be more and more in our lives, whether we like it or not. And definitely get the generational conversation about AI would be very, very impactful. So, Kofi Sadat, I'm looking forward when we have some young people come on and we have a digital roundtable about this conversation topic. That'll be. I'm excited about that. I am excited about that. Any final comments on this topic before we exit stage left?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, use your intuition, use your best judgment. Don't be, closed to new things and new technology. But at the same time, use your intuition. If it feels good, move with it. If it doesn't feel good in your spirit, take that as a sign and do what's right for you when it comes to this particular technology. So I would say, listen to yourself.
Kofi Morris.
Before artificial intelligence, there was ancestral African intelligence. AI cannot make roti and doubles. You got my many people. I don't care anyway. AI is not gonna make your curry goat. I don't care, bro. Say what you all want to say. So always remember that we still have the amazing tools of our ancestors on a day-to-day basis that we could utilize to both tantalize your taste buds and also cultivate your mind.
Sure.
For me, I'll just close it off. He is now transcends it to another place of an artist named Prince. And many, many, many years ago, he said this about the internet, not about AI. He said, don't let the internet control you. You control the internet. So if he was alive today, I have a feeling he'd say, don't let AI control you. You control AI. So that's what I'll leave with.
Well, can I share one final thing before we...
Go ahead.
I just want to share that in Toronto, we're going to be doing a Black Marriage Day event at the Real Jerk on Girard. It's their regular brunch from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So, hey, we're going to try to get a table. And if you're a Black married couple, come on out. If you're not, come on out as well.
What's the date again?
It's Sunday, March 29th.
Okay, so that's next week. Okay.
Maybe put something up. PM.
But while Paul is trying to put something up for it, I'll just say that or Kofi Sadat, there's his email information, nazajam@gmail.com, Instagram, Maroon @Maroon, YouTube, Nazar Community, Facebook, paul.osbourne.31. And I'll get that up in just a moment, Paul. I see you have it on screen, so let's do it. There we go. Black Marriage Day Brunch. There we go. 100%.
I have a quick, once we're complete. And actually, what's the best way for folks to connect to this event, like via website or Gmail or something?
They can go. There's a phone number here. Hold on. Directly to to Real Jerk. So the Real Jerk at the Real Jerk. Sorry, I don't want to mess.
Look it up.
Yeah. So the email is therealjerk@therealjerk.com.
Okay.
Right. Or you can call them at 416-463-6055, and that's to reserve a spot. And it's $24.99 for a great brunch.
That's a good deal.
Oh, I told you I went there before. So
yes, I know. That's a good deal.
Stew chicken, fish, green banana.
That's a good deal.
It's a great deal. So yeah.
It's a good deal. All right. Next up, let's get up here next. If you want to
get a plug, Dr. Vibe.
Pardon me?
I have a quick plug. Sunday, April 12th, our next show, because it's a little bit of a ways, but Sunday, April 12th, we're having something called the Divine Reset, holistic spa day. So that's something I'm going to be plugging on our next show in terms of visuals, but just put that date down. Sunday, April 12th, 10 to 6 p.m., Divine Reset, holistic spa day. So keep that in mind, April 12th.
Excellent. If you want to get a hold of Kofi Morris, email getwellstayfit@gmail.com. Instagram, there's two, Kofi Coach _ and at Cosmic Wellness Group, and also on Facebook, Kofi Coach. If you want to find out more about me, easily taplink.cc/the DRVIBESHOW.com. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Email us, Black Men Can Talk, and that's BLKMENCANTLK@gmail.com. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, also the website, the DRVIBESHOW.com, and Paul Osbourne on Facebook. So as always, gentlemen, thank you, because I know you gentlemen are always on the go. So thanks for you two giving us the most important thing, your time to hang out with us today. And as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher and wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both and make it better. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Walk good.